Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be building a relational database from scratch. We're going to build our custom table, custom row, connect table with a row. We're going to build a system to create database, create a table, insert data into the table, then update the data, pull the data, queries and stuff like that, all those interesting stuff. And we're going to be doing this all in Python. So in the last video, I built a key value store database using Python that could store stuff using a key value paired such way. So we're going to be building the relational database on top of this key value store. So if you haven't watched the key value store video, make sure you watch it before watching this one, because there is where I built uh, basically the engine that runs everything, the key value store. So everything will be handled by this key value store database. So make sure to watch that video. But the rest of the stuff we're going to build ourselves from scratch right here, right now. So stay tuned. Okay, hello. Okay, so in this part, we're going to be learning how to build our own table and row that we're going to use in this database. So this table should work perfectly with the KV store database that we built before underneath it. So the first thing I want to build is the row itself, so that we can use it in the table later. So I'm gonna say class, define a class row. Then I want to define its constructor or initializer, whatever you want to call it, in it. What the fuck? Okay. So I'm gonna say I don't need this. So what I want to do is, before I do this, I want to explain something first. So I want to, the user or the programmer himself wants to use this database in his system, we'll have to do something like this. Define a row, say row, and pass in the actual columns, like ID is equal to 1, name is equal to, say, John or something, and other more columns here. So in Python, the way to handle such kind of data where we don't actually know the number of parameters that are going to be passed in here, what we do is we do this. We say the actual row, and we use double asterisks and keywords args, something like that. So if we do this, definitely we'll be able to handle multiple parameters here that we don't know how many of them are there. So that's what I want to do. So I want to pass in columns here. So I'm gonna say columns. Then I want to initialize this column. I'm gonna say self columns is equal to columns that we have passed in. So that's it for the row class for now. The next thing I want to do is create the actual table. So I'm going to create a class, call it table. Define the initializer, constructor, whatever you want to call it, init. Okay. It's going to be passing or receiving a few parameters here. So I'm gonna receive self, the class itself, the name, and the KV store that we're going to use to build this whole thing. So I'm gonna say self dot name is equal to name. I'm gonna say self dot KV store is equal to KV store, okay, the one with uppercase. So that's it for the initializer. So the next thing I want to build an actual method for a user to be able to pull data from there. I mean to insert that something into the database first. Okay. So I'm gonna create a method and call it insert. It's going to be receiving two things: the class itself and the row. Okay, the row that we have defined above. So I'm gonna say, so since we are using this KV store that we built before as the underneath database, we have to consider how it works first. So how this works, it's it uh, it handles things in a key value paired way. So everything here is stored in a key and a value. So if we want to insert something into this database, we have to have a key and a value. So what if the user wants to pass in multiple columns of values? How are you going to handle this? So the best way to do this is to create a unique key for every row that never repeats itself. So I'm gonna say uh, here I'm gonna create a key. So I'm gonna use Python inbuilt UUID package. UID package. I have to import it first. I'm gonna import it here. I'm gonna say import UID so that we use it here. I want to UID 4. So it's going to create a key in a string form. So I'm going to use this key to pass in to the database. I'm going to say self dot kv store, the underlining kv store dot set. So this set method, we defined it before here. It receives a key in the value. Okay, so I'm going to pass in a key in the value. So I'm going to say the key itself. I'm going to define a custom f string and say self dot name. Want to know the name of the table first, and the key so that was created. Then the value. So we're going to be using these two things here to grab things from the database, assuming that you have like multiple stuff in there, multiple tables and stuff like that. So we're going to use this as a definer, something like that. So for the value, it makes sense if I just pass in the row here. But remember that our rows have multiple columns. So what I want to do, I want to use the inbuilt JSON module from Python and do something here. I'm gonna say JSON dot dumps what? It dumps row dot columns. Okay, that's it. So that's it for the insert class, insert method. But we want to grab something from the database here. We want to query, and we want to have a key. So where are we going to get this key? So the best way is to return this key from this class, this method. So I'm going to return the key here so that later on we're going to use the same key here to pull things from the database. If we want to pull this row, we want to use this key because this is the unique identifier for this row that I've inserted, because this self.name is universal for many rows, for every row in this table. So yeah, as long as we want to get just this key, this particular row, we have to use this key that we have created here. That's why it has to be unique. So I'm gonna need it here. So that's why I have to return the key here, so that I can assign it to a variable later on. So I'm gonna say here to query. I'm gonna do something. First. I'm gonna say okay, data is equal to self.kvstore.get. So this get method receives the key itself. So Since we already know the database name, I'm gonna just say self name, because this is universal for everything in this class. It's public. Okay, so I have to pass in the key itself here, just like before. So then what I want to do, I think I'm gonna say if data, then I'm gonna say if data dot starts with uh, start with key, okay, then we return none. This is because this is because in the KV store one, so this is because in the key value stored, I say that if the key exists, so there's a key in value pair, we return the key. But if it doesn't exist, we return something like this. So if it starts with key, that means that this doesn't exist. I think you get what I'm saying. All this is in the key value store video. Okay, so the next thing I want to check is I want to know what to do else. So else here, I'm going to just return low, okay, with all the data. JSON loads what? Loads the data. So that is either be formatted. The next thing I want to do, okay, I have to define if that data doesn't exist. Okay, so I'm gonna say else return a string, just say not found. It's enough. Just gonna say not found. Okay, that's it. Then the next thing I want to do after being able to query something is I want to do what? I want to delete something from the database itself. So I'm gonna say def delete. Gonna take self and the key, and I'm gonna use the delete method we defined in the KV store. Okay, this one to delete this. I'm gonna say .kv store dot delete. Then what do you want to delete? We want to delete something that has this key. So it's self dot name and the key itself. So even to delete this, we need the key. Get what I'm saying? Okay. That's why we have to return the key here, because we have to use it in multiple places below. Then after this, I want just to know if something has been deleted. I'm just gonna say print row deleted successfully. Okay, that's it. Okay, I also want to define some sort of way to get something. I want to get the list of all tables. So I'm gonna say list, of all rows in a table. List rows Okay, I'll be taking self, just self. Okay, because so I'm gonna define a list here. Oh, then I'm gonna define a prefix that is common to everything that is in this table. So I'm gonna say prefix because all the tables have this prefix self name. Then I'm gonna say for key in self dot kv store dot get key, because this returns a list. I mean dot, no, I want to do something. So in the kv store we defined a method to return all the keys here, so I just want to use this. So I'm just gonna say dot keys. Then I'm gonna say if key dot starts with the prefix we have defined before that is common to every row in this table. Okay, so if the key starts with this prefix, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna say data is equal to self dot kv store dot get the key. So I'm gonna just append this into the database. So I just have to append the data dot append. But wait a minute. What if because in the get method in this kv store part we didn't actually so if this key does not exist, we'll get this. So this isn't actually what we want. So I'm gonna say if not, before I append it, I'm gonna say if not data dot starts with key, then what I want to do is I wanna append. So I'm gonna append. I'm gonna say row dot append. Append what? Append the data itself. And no, if I append the data itself, it doesn't come as I have to do this. I have to append it as the row method. Okay, I'm gonna say row just as we did before. I'm gonna append row json dot loads what? Loads the data. Okay, that's it. So then I want just to otherwise return row, so that we have it as the output rows. Here should be rows. I need to change all this. Rows, okay. Oh, shit. Rows, okay. And here I have to return rows. The next thing I want to do, I want to be able to update something from the, I'm gonna say update. I want to update something. So how do I do this? Okay, so I'll need that's the class itself and the key and the values that we want to update. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna call them updates. So these are the values or columns we want to update. So I'm gonna say row is equal to self, this class itself, dot query. So I'm gonna query first. The query method, we have defined it here. So I'm gonna query with a key that we have passed in. Then I'm gonna say if row exists, then I want to do this row dot columns, or the columns in the row that update. So this is some sort of recursion happening here, update. So I want to run this method again here. This is some sort of recursion here, update. So we pass in the updates now. Okay, so it's gonna, let me write it first, and then I'll try to explain it after finishing to write it. Okay, I'm gonna say self.kv store dot set. I'm gonna do the same like I did here. So where is it? Okay, so just this. I'm gonna copy everything here because it's basically the same thing. Okay, so that's it. So this is it. So what this does is we first get the row, then we update the columns here, then we use the same columns that we updated and set them into the database underneath here. So that's it. That's how we update this. We check if it's there. If it's there, we update the columns that were before, then we put them back. So the next thing I want to do, I want to define some sort of method to give me the number of all rows in the database. I'm going to say count. What should I call it? Count rows. Count rows. Okay. Okay. It's going to be taking the class itself. And this is pretty easy. I'm just going to return the length of self dot list rows that we've defined before. So this method here, list rows, returns a list. I'm just gonna get the length of this list here, and that's it for the rows. So that's basically it for the table. Just this. You can add some more method here if you want, but this does everything. So the next part we have to do is to build the actual database and connect it to the table and the KV store underneath it. Okay, so I had a typo here. It starts with, not start with. Starts with, and I have to change something else here in this before I proceed to the miniDB class or part of this video. Okay, I have to add something here first. I want to be able to clear the table, the whole table. So I'm gonna say clear table. Can I take in self, and I'm gonna say prefix. So I want to, so we already have a clear method here. We already have a clear method. We already have a delete method from this database, from this table. We defined it before, but this delete method wants a key. So I have to first create an identifier. So I'm gonna say prefix again. is equal to an f string as usual, self name, and this, just this. And I also forgot this here, so we also need this here to be more accurate. We also need to add the semicolon, be more accurate. It's not necessary, but it's just to be accurate. So I also want to do a loop, so I'm going to loop through every key in, so let me say this, let me say keys is equal to self.kv store.keys, like that, and I'm gonna say for key in keys, then do this. So just want to simply delete this here, do self.delete, delete the key. One issue though, we will face some problems while doing this, because in this delete method, every time something is deleted, we printed something, oh, deleted successfully, and I don't want this, definitely not. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna add in a parameter, call it maybe, what should I do? Okay, trying to think here. So I'm gonna call it is, okay, show prompt, and by default it will be true by default, true with a capital T. So here I'm gonna say if show prompt is equal to true, then I want to do this, just that. What's it say? Let me see, let me try to delete this, because I can just do it like this. Yeah, probably nothing is wrong if I do it like this. So once I delete here, I just have to pass in something else here. I'm gonna just say false. Okay, false. Plus there's also something else I haven't considered before. So in the delete method, so here we're passing in the key as the whole thing, so I think it's probably the best, in our best interest to do what, because we have to customize, because this key here that we get from this key here that we get from the keys list will be like this, will be the whole thing, like self dot name and the key, and a unique key, because when we were inserting, we use this here, so we don't want this like the whole thing. We want this like the whole thing, but this is what we get from the keys here, from the keys list. What we get is this whole thing, but in the delete method we actually append self.name to the key to create this whole thing. So if we are to do this, it means that we have to append self.name, then self.name and the key again, so that will not work. So I think it's probably best if I just delete it myself again. Instead of using this method, I should just do it again here, because otherwise we have to customize the delete method very much. So I'm just gonna say here, and I'm gonna remove this here. Let's say the key that we have received, and then I also, yeah, just this. Then after this, I'm gonna say, so after this, I have to get out of the loop. Then I'm gonna say print table. So this has to be an F string table. Okay, I'm gonna say self dot table name cleared successfully. Okay, so that's it. Soon we're going to be testing this out. Once I actually build the miniDB class. So the next thing I want to do is build out the miniDB class here. So we're just gonna say miniDB, no, miniDB.py. Okay, and in this class we're going to be creating methods. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I actually want the KV store here. So I'm gonna say from KV store import KV store, and I also want the table. I mean, I want the whole table, the table class. So I'm gonna say from table import table. Then I have to create the class. Say the class should be miniDB. Create the constructor init. I'm getting, it's gonna be receiving some few parameters, the class itself and the file name. The file name as in the database name. Okay, I can just say name. You just say name instead of file name. Okay, this is going to be the miniDB name. Okay, so I'm gonna first start to initialize some stuff here. I have to initialize the KV store class. Okay, I'm gonna say self dot KV store be equal to KV store name, and I'm gonna say self dot tables should be equal to an empty dictionary. Okay, that's it. Then I want to create a method for creating table. So I'm gonna say dev create underscore table. We're getting self and a table name. So I'm gonna say self. Okay. The first thing I want to do, okay, right. I want to say self.table because this is a dictionary. No, I didn't want to do this. I'm going to self.table table name. So I'm gonna create a new value inside the dictionary. It should be associated to table. The name plus the actual self.kv store. So the actual KV store that we have initialized here. Okay, because we're going to be using it inside like we did before in the table part. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, just print something out, like print, I want to print an F string saying table name created. Okay, then the next thing I want to do is find a way to get the table. So I'm gonna say itself the name of the table that I want to get, returns self table dot tables dot get, because we want to get something from this list here. So I'm just gonna self dot table dot get name. Okay, that's it. So the next thing I want to do, I just want to close the database itself. So I'm gonna just say define close. We're taking self and just gonna say self dot kvstore dot close. So we define this method in the kvstore part. Okay, here we close the database. So that's it for the miniDB. Okay, so pretty much up to this point we have done everything that we needed. Right, almost everything that we needed, we have done it. Created a table, get the table. Yeah, that's it. Maybe I might want to create a table, but no, don't want that. So that's it for the miniDB. In this part, we're going to try to build something or try to do something with the database we have built before. So we're going to try to create something, try to read, try to update, and try to delete. So it's just the basic code applications. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I want to import the database itself. So the database itself exists in the minidb.py. So I'm gonna say from mini db import mini db. Then I'm gonna say from table import row. Now I want to create some sort of a main function, then use this function to run the whole thing. So I'm gonna say div main. Okay. Then I'm gonna say maybe print. Okay, I'm gonna say no. I want to say db is equal to mini db. I should call it something like mini. Okay, so before that I want to delete these ones because I used this before. Okay, so this is the testing that I used before. So back to the minidb. Okay, so I want to initialize the minidb to db. Okay, then so to run this function, I'm gonna say if name is equal to main, then just run this function. Okay, so after we have initialized the database, we want to create a table. So I'm gonna say create tables, and here we were initializing the database. Okay, so to create a table, we had a method in the minidb.py called create table. It takes in self and the name. So I'm just gonna say maybe db.create table. I want to create a table called users. I want another table, so I'm gonna say db.create table products. Okay, products. That's right. Okay. So just by doing this, we have successfully created the table. So the next thing I want to do, I want to try to insert something into the database. So first, I want to set a user into this row. So I'm gonna get the users table. See, we have to get the table using this method. So I'm gonna say here, okay, users is equal to db.get table users. Okay, Then I want to define some rows of data, so I'm gonna say row 1 is equal to row. Okay, so this is gonna be a user, so I'm gonna say ID should be 1, maybe name should be equal to touch or something. Then I need some sort of an email or something. Just coming up with this right now. Okay, so email, let me say like touch at kili.com. Okay, then I might need another row, so I'm gonna say row 2 is equal to row, okay, ID is equal to 2, no 2, name is equal to maybe Mary, and no, let's do Mary Jane, like the one from Spider-Man. Okay, so email can be Mary, okay, this should be a string, Jane at gmail.com. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to now to insert this. Okay, so to insert something, just have to basically say users dot insert. Okay, what we want to insert, we want to set the first row one, that's it. But remember, in the table class we needed this key here to use it to query something. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna assign a variable to this. I'm gonna say key 1 is equal to, and I'm gonna duplicate this. Okay, I'm gonna say okay, and change this to 2 so that it should work for the second user as well. So just by doing this, you have successfully inserted the user into the database. We can do a test run. Okay, we can do a test run by saying python main.py, okay, to see if, okay, so the tables were created. Say table your user created, okay, that was fine, we created the table here, but while we're inserting the rows we didn't actually give out a message in the table class, so that's why you saw nothing. Didn't print out anything. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I want to try to query this. So I'm gonna say okay, querying. I'm gonna say call it query user 1 is equal to users dot query, and this pass this receives the key for the first user. So I'm gonna say the same for the second query user 2 is equal to users dot query takes in the second key. Okay, so now we're finally, you've successfully queried the user. So I want to print out the whole row, so the whole first user row. So I'm gonna say print. Okay, so I want it to be an F string, so it's gonna be, I'm gonna say user 1 should be equal to query user 1 dot columns. So I want to see all the columns, so I'm just gonna duplicate this, just change this to here to 2. Okay, so let's see if this does anything. Okay, so now you see here we got user 1, its ID 1, and all the stuff that we defined here. So we have successfully inserted the data into the database that we have built from scratch ourselves. So the next thing I want to do, I want to try and update the first user. So as you can see here, my real name is Tachera, but I wrote Touch. That's my nickname. So I want to update this to the chair instead of touch. So how do I do this? So uh, as we defined in the table class, we had an update method. So it receives the key and the updates that we're to change. So I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna say okay, okay. So I wanna say users dot update. Okay, uh, passing the first key for the first user in the new row. Okay, so to the new row or the updates that I want to change, I want to change the name to be equal to Chachera, and I want to change the email as well. So the email uh, to be equal to Chachera sassy at gmail.com. Okay, something like that. Okay. So after that, I want to just simply uh, query the first user like I did here. Okay, so just copy this, paste it. Uh, I think there's no need for me to do this. Okay, just want to print out the updated one because I'm just gonna say copy this and paste it and just say updated user one. Okay, user one. So let's see if we did update the users. Okay. Okay, it did not work. Why is that? Uh, so somehow it did not work. Okay, let me try to what? Okay, let me try to do this here. Okay, so just change this here. Maybe add some sort of an update. Okay, let me say updated. Okay, so let me try to do this again. Let's create this. Okay, so this time we have updated. So the issue here was if I did not have this here, means that this variable that we are calling it was before we updated the value. So now we have to call it again, query it again, then use it. So here you can see the updated row and the values have changed. Here is Tachira Sasi and it was touch.aki@aki.com. Here's tachirasasi@gmail.com. So the next thing I want to try out, to remove a row. So how do I delete? I want to delete Mary Jane's row. So how do I do that? It's just really simple. Okay, you're gonna say users dot dot delete. Yeah, I think so. Dot delete. Yeah, that's how we defined it. Yeah, I am pretty sure it is. Yeah, dot delete. Okay, dot delete. We pass in the key. So key for user 2. Don't want user 2. Okay, so that's it. That's basically it. Okay, so before actually running this, we won't be able to see this because we have not yet grabbed the list of all the rows of a variable. Okay, so I just want to do this to do something first. I want to get all the rows a variable. So I'm just gonna say here uh, all users is equal to users dot list rows. Okay, so this is the method that we wrote before. I think it's here list rows. Okay, that's it. So just returns in a list of all the rows inside the database. So okay, so this is how we do it. So I want to print out. So how do I print out? I'm just gonna say print. What do I want to print? I want to print all users. It should be a string. Okay, it should be a string. And I want to concatenate it with something else. I want to say a list, say user dot columns for user in all users. Okay, so that's it. So probably this will work. I think so. So let us try to run this, okay, and see if Mary Jane will be still there. Okay, so before that I want to delete these data before, because these ones have duplicated data. So some of the rows have been duplicated here. Okay, so I was about to delete this too. Okay, yeah, so that's it. So once I run this, okay, let me try to run it. Okay, row deleted successfully. Table, no attribute columns. Why is that? Okay, I said users instead of a user, so okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have to delete this again because it has duplicated data. So you just have to do this here, delete, then relearn the whole code. So you can see here there is no any row of Mary Jane in the Rust part, so we have deleted a particular row successfully. So the next thing I want to do, I want to just simply try to do something else. I want to create the whole table. So I'm gonna say, okay, so I have to comment this because it will bring out some errors if the row doesn't exist. So to create the whole table, we created a method called create table. Okay, so I'm just gonna use this. So I'm just gonna say users dot create table. Okay, that's it, done, boom, create the fucking table. Okay, so before that I want to get the list of the rows available. So here I'm gonna say users dot count rows. Okay, so this will give me the list of the rows, and I'm just gonna say print, okay, and I have string saying the number all the rows in the database is okay. Is what? Wait, I need to see something. Looks okay. So this returns the list. Okay, so I'm just gonna give this a value. Okay, here. Okay, is equal to count. That's it. Just count. Okay, so let us see if this works, and I'm gonna print this out again after this. Yeah, that's it. So, and I will try again to list all the rows, so you can see that after I create the table, the rows were empty this time. So let's just try to rerun the code and see what happens. Okay, so I did not leave a space here. Okay, so we created tables, inserted data, updated the user, then we update the user. Okay, we read or code all the data from the database, then we got the number of rows that were false. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4. So they just got duplicated every time I rerun the code. Okay. So after we deleted the table was created successfully. The rows now are 0, and as I printed out all the rows, you see just returned an empty list. So that worked successfully. The database does everything it is required to do just as we want it to. So far we have built a mini-relational database from scratch. So you can go on and add some new features to it, whatever you want. So I'll put the link of the code in the description below, the GitHub repository for it. You can go and download the code, just use it, play around with it, and use the Python superpower that are just up to your hand. So yeah, you have successfully done that. Yeah, pretty cool, pretty interesting, pretty amazing stuff. Just don't forget to subscribe the channel for more content like this. I'm gonna be posting other cool low level stuff like this, maybe a React clone, something. I'm thinking about doing a React clone, letting React from scratch or something like that. So just stay tuned. All this low level stuff, or this reverse engineering, or I mean reinventing the wheel stuff. So if you think about it, reinventing the wheel is not good if you want to do it in a production level. So if you want to sit down there and create your own React and go and use it to do something, and in a production level, that's not good, because React itself has so many features and it will just take up most of the time to do it, because it's very hard to build a working React clone, or maybe working Next.js clone, or maybe a Laravel clone for yourself. But uh, doing this for learning purposes is really good, because I'm pretty sure you cannot be able to write your own React clone or write your own database and just fail to pull something from the table. You can't just be that dumb. How can you build your own database and fail to pull something from a MySQL database, or just to connect a React to Node? So understanding this low-level stuff helps you to do the simple stuff that a developer does, because you understand how the things work in the background itself. So that's it for today.